Vale, muy bien. Okay. ¿Tienen preguntas después de practicar? Do you have any questions after practicing? ¿O no?
Can
Suai.
you
Bueno.
So the first one, when we say live in Arizona for a duration, like mi vecino lleva en Arizona, do I do 2 meses or por 2 meses? Or for 2 months or just 2 months?
Oh, just 2 months. So in other words, do you need that word por?
Yeah.
Not with llevar.
Okay.
Okay. If you had vive por, then yes.
Okay.
But with llevar, just 2 meses.
Okay.
Mi vecino lleva 2 meses en Arizona. He's been living here for 2 months.
Okay. Uno más.
Sí,
so
sí.
if I say he has been living in Arizona, do I say llevar, vivir en Arizona, or just llevar?
Just llevar.
Okay.
Just llevar. And I'll know what you mean. Es buena pregunta.
Pregunta, Marilyn?
Yeah. And now there are other ways you can say that same idea, but that's one way to say it. Okay. Sí, Nora.
Yes, I was trying to say that my neighbors, and they're female neighbors, have lived in Arizona since the late 70s. So I was saying mis vecinas han vivido en Arizona desde finales de los 70.
Sí, 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 sí. De los años 70, de los años 70. Los años 70 is just the 70s in general, you know, that whole decade, right? So, okay, you can put an han vivido. Momentito. Okay, so so that the others know what you're saying. I'm going to write this down because mi vecino, right? Mi vecino ha vivido. Mi vecino ha vivido en Arizona desde los años 70. Okay, here's what she had. Mi vecino ha vivido en Arizona desde los años 70. My neighbor has lived in Arizona since the 70s. That ha vivido thing is what they call a present perfect. Has lived. That is one way to say has lived since the 70s. And it's a past. You're telling about something that has been going on in the past, aren't you?
Yes.
In all those years, right?
Well,
so
they still live there. You know, it's 2 female neighbors and they still live there, and they have lived there since the late 70s.
Okay. So here's the thing. There are people may express these ideas using different verbs. So they might express that same idea, saying, mi vecino lleva 50 años en Arizona, because since the 70s, it's been 50 years, right? Mi vecino lleva 50 años en Arizona, taking that as a whole number, but not as the 70s, but as the whole, it's a 50-year span, right? They may express it this way. Hace 5 años que mi vecino vive en Arizona. Perdón. So excuse my non-capitalization and abbreviations there. They might also use this structure, which is not llevar. It's a different thing. This thing is hace in a period of time, not llevar. But if you want to say my neighbor has lived here for 50 years, you can use it as this very specific structure, which is a special structure. It makes this period of time that my neighbor does this, whatever the does this verb is, right? And that implies that that person is still doing that, and they've done it for whatever stretch of time you've named. So literally they express it as, it makes 50 years that my neighbor does this, and he's still doing it. Hace 50 años que mi vecino vive en Arizona. So that is yet a different way they may express that same idea of lleva 5 años en Arizona. So you may hear people express the same idea, but using different kinds of word combinations, just so you know. It doesn't mean you have to know all of those combinations now. You know, you need to know one structure, an easy one, to get your idea across with somebody. But when they answer you back, they might use some different structure, is what I'm saying. Okay, vale? Vale, we're going to take 3 more questions. Tres más. Tres más. ¿Qué tipo de comida? Let's take this in a chunk. ¿Qué tipo de comida means what kind of food? So you're going to take tipo de comida out and plug in a kind of food. ¿Qué tipo de comida pides? Do you order? Pides. ¿Qué tipo de comida pidas para llevar? And when you want to say I order in the answer, it becomes this. Pido. Pido. I order. Or you could say compro, I buy. Or you might say tomo, I take, right? There's no one verb that's right, but the way you answer that question verb pides would have to go into the yo form, right? But know that people might put a different verb in there. They might put in tomo, they might say compro, right? We might seg in a different verb that carries a similar kind of meaning. ¿Qué tipo de comida? What kind of food? And that whole thing comes out because you're going to plug in a type of food. ¿Qué tipo de comida pidas para llevar? What do you order to go? ¿A quién llevas a un restaurante para cenar? Who do you take to a restaurant to eat dinner with? ¿A quién llevas a un restaurante para cenar? Or actually, I could have shortened that to say, ¿a quién llevas a cenar? Who do you take out to eat? But I wanted to make sure you understood the idea of restaurant. Llevo a. I take. And now you name somebody, llevo a. And then you're going to name where you go. ¿A dónde les gusta cenar? Where do you like to eat dinner? I want you to use this idea, and you're going to plug in a specific restaurant. So this, ¿a dónde les gusta? Where do you like to eat dinner? You're going to plug in a specific restaurant there. You follow what I'm saying? So I'm not asking, do you like to, do you take your friend to Manuel's? Do you take your friend to, and you're supplying the name of the restaurant. That's why I have the second question. ¿A dónde les gusta cenar? ¿A quién llevas a, and you're going to plug in a restaurant, para cenar? Bien? And then you're going to answer, ¿qué llevas en la maleta cuando vas de vacaciones? What do you take in your suitcase? ¿Qué llevas en la maleta? What do you take in your suitcase? Cuando vas de vacaciones, when you go on vacation. Bien? Okay? And you're just going to give me some general categories of clothing. It might be different kind of clothing if you take ski vacations. It might be different kind of clothing if you take beach vacations. It might be different kind of clothing if you take hiking vacations. Bien? ¿Vale? 3 preguntas. Hay una pregunta. Is there any question before we go off? Or no? Nada? Okay. Vale. A los cuartos. Off to our room. I think your join button should show up. Okay, bien. Esperamos a los otros. We're just waiting on the last few people. Okay. A ver, bueno. ¿Dónde están los otros? Where's everybody else? I thought they'd be coming back in. We got a little lag, I think, in our Zoom thing. They should be coming in.
Yeah, we didn't get the timer that say is ending, but we saw your message say let's wrap up time, and that's why we come back.
Huh. I wonder why it's. You know, I sadly had one group where it totally blipped out on me last week. Everything went black. And oddly enough, everybody was off in, I was terrified. Everybody was off in breakout rooms. My screen went black.
Oh,
I lost Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi completely went out. But I don't know if it was my system or if it was Cox in general. I come back in, I thought, oh, everybody's gone. I'm going to have to like email everybody and tell them to get back in and come back in again. Oh no, they're just all sitting there, just peachy keen fine. But I thought, you know, if it ends the host, doesn't that black out everybody else? Apparently not.
yeah.
The strangeness of Zoom.
I was lucky to have a wife yell at me.
Yeah, it's okay. We've got a few more back. Wow. Okay, I'm still
Jeff
waiting.
and I were just having a nice conversation about what we do when we travel.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay. Maybe that's why. But it should have brought everybody back. Where is everyone? Well, we should be okay. Diana, Mariana, and oh yeah, they're still joined. I'm going to try to close rooms again because we've got two more. Okay, maybe this will bring them back. If in doubt, hit the close out button again. Okay. Turn it off, turn it back on, turn it off, turn it back on, right? Oh, man. Okay. A ver, aquí bien. I think we got a few more coming back in. Hola, Mariana. Bien. Okay. We got a few more we're waiting on. Zoom is being slow. And they were supposed to just do upgrades. Wink, wink. Yeah. We'll see how that's going. Yeah, see, this is the first group I'm doing since the latest upgrade. So I maybe need to tell them, look at that upgrade. Is that working exactly like it should be? I still got a few people lagging out. Marianne came back. Oh, okay. Here we come. I got to talk with those Zoom people. They were late sending you back to me. Okay. A ver, I don't know what was going on with that. Vale. Nos quedan dos preguntas. Two questions are remaining to us. And then we're going to go on to a new thing and it'll show you what you're going to do for the coming week. Okay. So dos preguntas más, dos preguntas más. Vamos a ver. Ok. ¿Cuáles son tres cosas que llevas cuando vas al supermercado? What are three things you carry along with you? ¿Cuáles son tres cosas que llevas cuando vas al supermercado? ¿Ok? Que llevas cuando hace fresco. Aquí se refiere a la ropa. ¿Qué llevas cuando hace fresco? Ropa. ¿Qué llevas a la playa? What do you take to the beach? En general. La primera parte, ropa. La segunda parte, todo en general. You know, maybe you take a towel, maybe you take a sun umbrella, maybe you take food, maybe you just take beach clothing, lo que sea, whatever it may be. Bien? ¿Vale? Son las últimas preguntas. These are the last 2 questions for now. After this, we're going to start a kind of a review of a topic, but something we should review because of all the things we did with pronouns, and you'll have things to practice with that. ¿Están listos? You ready to go off for, got these copied down? See? Yeah. Vale, bueno. A ver, ok. A los cuartos pequeños, off to the little rooms. This will be a little bit shorter, I think, than the last one, maybe just 3 minutes instead of 5. Oh, is it sending you off at all?
Oh, there we go.
Did you get a join button? I know it's not my Wi-Fi this time. I might talk to Zoom people though, because I think we're having some funny hitches with getting off to the room. Pobre Mariana, poor Marianne, you can't get off to the room. ¿Quieres practicar conmigo? You want to practice with me? Oh, and you have to unmute yourself. I know, I always need time to find the right button. There's the darn button, right? Ah, te oigo, I hear you. Vale, muy bien. Okay, I've still got some folks waiting to get in. Okay, they've got 30 more seconds, so they absolutely have to close it down. Yay. Excelente, muy bien. ¿Tienen preguntas después de practicar? Do you have any questions after practicing that?
We
Yeah.
actually had one about one of the previous questions.
Okay, sí, dime.
The one that's Adonde les gustar cenar. And
Sí.
I was saying me gusta chilis, but then we were wondering if it should be me gusta ir a chilis.
Me gusta chilis, no. Bien.
Is okay?
Sí.
Okay.
Los dos son correctos. The two are correct.
Okay.
Bueno, pero, ok, y más, hay más. Ok, Suwai.
So if I want to say wear sunscreen, do you use llevar for sunscreen?
Oh, okay. Qué buena pregunta. Are you talking about just taking sunscreen with you or putting it on your body?
Putting it on.
Oh, putting it on
Yeah.
is a different thing. If you just take sunscreen with you, then llevar is fine. Like you have it packed away, in your backpack, let's say. But if you want to talk about putting something on your body, it'll be just like clothing.
Okay.
And what we use for putting stuff on your body, whether it's clothing or lotion, well, makeup, they got a special verb, so maybe not makeup. But if you put on actually sunscreen, they use ponerse. That's reflexive. So, okay. Por ejemplo, se puede decir, one can say, me pongo crema protectiva cuando hago una caminata. Maybe I want to say that when I go on a hike, I put sunscreen on. Me pongo crema protectiva. And there are different words for sunscreen depending on where you go, crema protectiva cuando hago una caminata, crema de sol. There are different words for sunscreen depending on the region you're in. Me pongo crema protectiva cuando hago una caminata. Cuando voy a la playa. Cuando voy a la playa, me pongo la crema. Bien? Bien. That's put on. Because then you're actually putting it on your body as opposed to just taking it with you. Okay. ¿Hay más preguntas?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure about like when you're answering a question and then you do it like in a complete sentence. And for example, like number 6, if I wanted to answer like llevo muchas blusas y pantalones en mi maleta, ¿vas de vacaciones?
Cuando voy, when I go. Cuando voy.
So you just say cuando voy?
Cuando voy de vacaciones. Cuando voy de vacaciones, when I go on vacation. When I go on vacation, I do this because they're two separate activities. Oh, I go on vacation, voy de vacaciones. Cuando voy de vacaciones, llevo muchas blusas y pantalones en la maleta. I take along lots of blouses and pants in my suitcase.
Okay.
Cuando voy de vacaciones, llevo solo 2 pares de zapatos. When I go on vacation, I take only 2 pairs of shoes. Cuando voy de vacaciones, llevo 2 pares de zapatos. And both verbs get conjugated there because we're not using them right next to each other. They're 2 separate activities, and I do both of them.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Okay, so that means that the number 7 is going to be the same thing like cuando voy
Sí,
al
sí, sí, sí.
supermercado. Okay.
Exacto. Cuando
Got it.
voy al supermercado, when I go to the supermarket, here is what I bring along. Okay. Y es importante, and this is important, Juanita, because you're going to see in this next segment what happens when I do use 2 verbs, but they're not talking about separate activities. So these things you just did, they were separate things. I go to the beach, I take this stuff. I go to the supermarket, I take this stuff. Okay, bien? We're going to see what happens when we use 2 verbs, but they're not talking about separate activities. They're talking about activities that, 2 verbs talking about just one activity, but they're 2 verbs, and you'll see what we mean. Okay, bien?
Okay.
Es buena pregunta.
Gracias.
That is a super, super good question. Okay.
Gracias.
That is why we have super good questions. Okay, a ver, pam, 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 pam. Dos verbos. I am going to, we're doing prep for next week. Next week, we're going to take, I hope I can fit 2 ideas in. I think we can. We're gonna do something that's a review for most of you. Vale la pena. It is worth the effort. Vale la pena. And it's worth the effort because it does get to this idea of what happens when I use 2 verbs together. And you saw this when we were using those pesky pronouns. This was that situation where I have a choice when I use 2 verbs together. I can use an object pronoun in front of the conjugated verb, or I can tag it on to the end of that second verb, right? You saw a bunch of those last week, but we're going to bring back this basic idea of why do we use 2 verbs together? And what are the most common ones that you'll probably encounter? Because it is common. And you saw it in the video we had with, and I can't find it right now, but the one where she said, me puede llevar al centro. Can you take me downtown? Me puede llevar. That whole idea of using 2 verbs together is an important thing that people use a lot. So I'm going to show you you're going to get this where everything is packaged in one website. But I want to show you the website because there's one slide where you might miss something if you don't scroll down. And I want to show you how to do that. Okay. You're going to get a little, this is one of the best short videos on this topic I have seen because it's very simple. It explains it in really plain terms. It is a great explanation. Sentences with 2 verbs, but they're not 2 separate actions. I go to the store, I take this. I go to the beach, I take this. They're 2 verbs working together to talk about the same activity. Okay, sentences with 2 verbs. You're going to click on that. It'll play the video for you. And then we're going to go through these explanations. So you're going to see all these screens and with examples. What I want to point out to you, show to you, is this screen here. Do you see the little gray bar way on the right? When you get to a screen like this or this, and it's got a gray bar, that means you've got to scroll down to see everything on it. Okay. So I want to point that out because on this screen here, I give you a list of verbs when they work together where they need an extra word. And you need to scroll all the way down to see the most common verbs that are used as two verbs together, not two separate actions. Okay. So you're going to need to scroll down on that. Oh, I'm trying to see here. Okay, yeah, I have it. Okay, so on this screen, I've got some common combinations where you don't have any little separate words. Sometimes when we use two verbs together, they're right next to each other. You conjugate the first one, the second one stays in infinitive. That's the situation we're talking about. They're not talking about separate activities. They're saying, I want to sing. I can sing. I like to sing. I should sing. I need to sing. I prefer to sing. But of course, you may have different things. I prefer to shop. I need to shop. I should shop. I like to shop, right? It can be any verb. That second verb tells what it is that you need to do, you want to do, you like to do. These are probably the most common verbs that are used right next to each other. But these are examples where the verbs are next to each other and there's no little word in between the two. It's just conjugated verb, infinitive, right? Some combinations need a little word in between. Whoops, a little word in between. So here's the page that shows you probably, again, the most common that you'll hear people talking and using where you do need a little word in between. And you just need to know what it is. Tener que tells obligation, have to. Ir plus a, and it needs that a plus the infinitive. Going to, you want to talk about future activity. Not happening right now, but it will happen. Empezar a, an infinitive. It's starting to do something. It's starting to snow. It's starting to rain. We're starting to drive. Like right now, get in the car, right? Acabar de is a special thing, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we come back next week. Acabo de and an infinitive allows you to say recent past without having to know any past tense. But it needs to be kind of recent. We can't use acabar de and then talk about something happened last year. That's too far. Okay. Or like 5 years ago, I did this. You can't use acabar de. Acabar de talks about something that is not too far in the past, but you just conjugate acabar in present. So, acabo de escuchar esto. I just listened to this. Acabo de comer el desayuno. I just ate breakfast. Acabo de tomar una taza de café. I just had a cup of coffee. So it's recent past, but you don't need to know any past tense. Yay! You don't need any different conjugation. You just take acabar and make it acabo, acabas, acaba, acabamos, acaban. Yay! Super fácil. And I'll probably put in an extra slide that will just talk about acabar de to get you comfortable, because you haven't seen a lot of acabar de. Es muy útil. En Mexico, les gusta usar acabar de. In Mexico, they like to use this phrase, acabar de. Because many times you say, oh, I just did that. You know, I don't want to do it again. You know, oh, ¿quieres comer? Acabo de comer. Do you want to eat? Oh, I just ate. Right? And you don't need to know any past tense. Super fácil, super easy. So I'm going to put an extra slide that talks just about acabar de. I'm also going to put in an extra slide that talks about this one. Volver a plus infinitive. It means to do something again. Volver means to return. Literally, you're saying, I'm returning to do this thing. Yee. You can't translate it. We say again. This is very, very common. Vuelvo a limpiar todo. I'm cleaning everything again. Okay. So I'll put in 2 separate little slides to do just those 2 structures to make it easier for you. When you get done with the whole thing, you're going to have a little place where I want you to express 4 different ideas using any, I don't care which ones, any of those 2 verb combinations, any of them. Okay, you pick which ones are most useful for you. All right, so you're going to type them in the little box, and again, you're going to have to scroll down. Type it in the little box. You can't skip that step. Type them in the little box. Uh-oh, look at that. Record button. When you get done, read to me what you wrote. So I get to hear you. Okay, ¿está bien?
Okay, so write and read and read.
Write it in. Yeah, I don't
Read.
think it's going to let you skip that typing it out step. But I like you to do that typing it in step because instead of you trying to memorize something, you know, you've got it all written in there for you and then record it. Bien?
Bien.
Magnifico. Okay, and I need to add a couple of little slides into that to explain acabar de, because that's kind of a new one for you guys, and volver a, because that's kind of these 2 new ideas. I'm going to have some more examples with that and showing you how to conjugate them. Acabar is easy to conjugate. Volver has that little stem change, so it's a little, yeah, it's a little weird. Bien? ¿Tienen preguntas? Do you have any questions on how that's going to work? And we'll practice a lot of these combinations next week. ¿Vale?
Vale.
Bien, okay. Magnifico. I do want to also get to another topic next week, which is the difference between looking at something and looking for something. 2 different verbs. To look at something, to look for something. Sometimes you are seeking something out. And that's not the verb look. That's the verb look for. So we'll talk about that next week and do some practice with that. ¿Está bien? Are we all good?
Bien.
Excelente, muy bien. Entonces, hasta lunes,
Hasta
till Monday.
lunes.
Don't forget, if you did not sign up yet for spring and you wish to continue doing some practice for spring, don't forget to sign up at Scottsdale's site. All good to go.
And which one is that? Is like after this and then
It's the same one.
step 2 still?
That is still step 2. Yeah.
Okay.
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 ¿Está bien?
Bien.
Excelente. Nos vemos el lunes. I'll see you on Monday. Será marzo. It will be March already.
Oh, wow. Time flies. When you had a good time.
When you're having a good time. Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun. Bien. Okay. Nos vemos el lunes.